Hello everyone, good morning. Am I audible? Can any one of you just respond back?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, good morning to everyone all again. Yeah, guys, my PPTs are visible, right? The screen is visible.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, thank you. Okay, today let us take up the next session, a session on the viruses. So, particularly computer viruses, not the biological viruses. So, virus is also one of the type of the malicious software or malicious code. So, however, you say malicious in the sense, obviously its purpose is for destruction, not for the construction. But what exactly is this virus in the sense? Obviously, either it can be virus or any malicious software, it is nothing else than the programs. So, it is also a program, but what is the purpose of the purpose of that program or that software is not the constructive, it is the destructive. That's what we say. Virus can do anything which the other programs can do. However, you build other programs in the same way, the virus program will be built. The only the thing that this virus program will leads to the destructive, and also the one major feature which you can observe in the virus, which is replicating feature. As such, we say viruses can be replicable. Viruses they themselves will replicate. You don't need somebody else to duplicate them. You, as soon as any virus program is started executing, it itself will create multiple copies of itself. So it start affecting all the files in the directory, so until the root directory, so it start affecting all the files. When I talk about affecting, it can be related to you may update the file or corrupt the file or delete the file completely, so all that. So in such case you will be your virus will be affecting in that way. So here the 3 points which you are supposed to know is that virus is also a program but which leads to the destruction, not the construction. The second point which you are supposed to know is that a virus will have a capability of replicating by itself, where the multiple copies of itself will be created by itself. So third is that it will leads to the destruction. When I talk about destruction, it can be affecting the files in the manner of destroying the file completely or updating the contents whatever it is there, or something like corrupting of the file as well. That is with respect to the functionalities of a virus. So then moving to the, so here somewhat we elaborated as such. Basically from 1970s itself this kind of affect, or you can say that destruction has started. But in 1980s, so they started analyzing, or they started calling it as a virus. Why they called it as a virus? Why they called it as a virus in the sense, because it has a capability of replicating by itself. So even before virus there were other malicious softwares as well, other malicious programs as well, which was affecting the computer system or computer network. But why they called this particularly as virus? Because however we have in our human or a biological virus also has a capability of replicating. As soon as any one biological virus enter to our human body, it will start affecting the cells of human. So at the same time, it is not only it will not be as a one virus which will be affecting all the cells. That one virus which is entered to the human body, that itself will be uh, replicated as a multiple viruses, multiple copies of the same virus. In turn it will be affect that kind of destruction or affecting all the cells which will be numerous. So in the same way here, in the computer malicious program, so in 1980s they thought that, or they found that there is a one malicious program which is not only affecting the files, where it is they also found that replicating, which is multiple. So by the end of they found that, or they detected it, they could able to identify that multiple copies of the same virus, but injected is only once. So that is why they called it as a virus, and it is they observed in the 1980s. So now what exactly is this virus? As I already said, it is also a piece of software, it is also a piece of program, only the thing that it can affect the other programs. So what I mean to say, if you consider the normal program, as soon as you execute that normal program, it produces the respective output. Whereas this virus program, as soon as you execute that virus program, it will perform two things. One is affecting a destruction of the particular file where your virus program is running. Second thing, that the copy of itself will be made. That's what you call it as a replication or replicating. Those are the two things which will happen as soon as any virus program get executes. So so do we, or in the other means to say, if you consider something like, will it be created by itself in a sense? No. However, virus is one of the dependent malicious program. However, yesterday we discussed about, in the last session we discussed about the introduction of malicious softwares. There I said virus is one of the dependent software. It itself will not be created. What I mean to say, even you can consider in our human body also, a virus will not be created in our body as normally. It will be feed, I mean to say, it will be inserted to the human body, it will be injected to the human body from some other external medium, some other external source. So in the same way here also, in the computers also, we don't say it as virus is generated by itself in the computer. It will be passed from somewhere, one computer to the other computer. That is what injection is, injecting will happen here. It is not generating itself, the injecting from other source will happen with respect to the virus. Then coming to the as I already said, it is what, it has a self-replicating code. So there is a possibility of replicating by itself. That's what the number of copies of itself will be made by itself. Then propagation, that's what movement. So itself will move from one location to the other location, or in the other way, in our means you say it as one device to the other device. However, you might have already known the known facts are these. It's not something which is new. So what does this propagation itself in the sense? It's something like, if at all if there is a virus in my pen drive, as soon as I insert my pen drive into the laptop, so I don't have to copy that pen drive. It itself will be propagated or moved. So you just deal with only your data, but if that data is already infected with the virus in the sense, so definitely with your data virus will also move or propagate. That is what just general introduction of the virus. Then next let us take up the very important thing which you supposed to know. It is parts of the virus. I said as parts of the virus. However, your biological virus has a different parts. So starts from your head, hand. There are plenty of parts. I hope you might have studied from a biological background. So now we are dealing with the parts of the computer virus. So as of concerned with the computer virus, there are three parts. So this computer virus program has the three parts, which is infection mechanism, trigger, and the payload. So what does out of these three, first let me take up the first is infection mechanism. Even then let me take up this trigger as a first part. So why do I take this trigger in the sense? However, the computer virus, we say it as a computer virus is a kind of dependent software which needs some initialization, which needs some initiation from external source. That initiation to your particular process, particular computer program, that is what trigger mode. When that's what the computer virus part, which is the trigger. So from where the exploding will happen. So that once after it is activated, Once after the trigger is activated, then only the working of the computer virus will begin. Next I'll come back to this infection mechanism. In this infection mechanism, you say it as, so like whether you want to replicate, because already I said, as soon as your computer virus is executed, two things will happen. One thing is that whether it is I would say two things are, one is it has to infect the computer files wherever it is stored, and the second thing is that it has to replicate. So as a means of replication, which is infection mechanism, so it's something like infection mechanism in the sense, whether you affect or not, whether you destroy or not, but you have to keep replicating by yourself and affecting or infecting to the other cells of the body. In the same way here, how do you replicate by yourself and move to the other unaffected files, or in the other way say that normal files? That is what infection mechanism. Whereas coming to the payload, which is something like, how do you damage that particular file where your virus is available? That is what payload. Either for the payload or for the infection, for both, the very important thing which should happen is the triggering, which is initiation. So as soon as this, that's what I say it as the three parts of computer program, which one is infection mechanism. How do you replicate by yourself and start infecting the other uninfected files, are the actual files, are the original files, which is infection mechanism. Payload, how do you once after the infection is done, how do you damage such files? Which is the payload part of the computer virus. So whereas when I talk about the damaging in the sense, that's what we say, whenever you talk about the damaging in the sense, it can be corrupting the complete file, or deleting the complete file, or you may say that modifying some kind of some part of the file. All that you consider as a damage in the file, so which is a part of your payload. Whereas either it can be payload has to be executed, or the infection mechanism has to be executed. For both, the very important initiation is the trigger part of a computer virus. So that is what we say, these are the three important parts of the any computer virus. Next, let me move to the next. This is again one more very important point or important topic we are supposed to know, which is virus operation. Before that, can anybody respond me? So are there any doubts till here, whatever I said till now?
No, sir, it's clear.
So moving to the next topic, which is the virus operation. So however, so when I say that virus operation, again as usual, let me compare with your our biological virus. So as soon as a virus is entered to the human body, what are all the steps will be initiated? So if I want me to compare with the respective current coronavirus, so I hope you might have already known so many news, or so much of information from that. So how it will be entered to the human body, which is one phase. The phase one is entering to the human body. So it can be through any mode. It can be through the when you inhale the air, or it can be something like you drink something, or you eat something which is already infected, or there are so many other modes where it will enter. The next is that once after it is entered, then how it will be damaging. But before that damaging, there should be something which has to trigger. So entering is different. Then once after it is entered, it has to move to the respective location. Say what I'm saying in the sense, if your virus, I'm talking with respect to coronavirus, if your virus is only, it is in your mouth only, in the sense it is not going to affect anymore to the human body until unless it reaches to the lungs. So that is what a movement, which I call as a propagation. So once it is entered, then it has to move to the respective location, which is the lungs with respect to corona. So which is the propagation phase, which is a movement phase. Next is triggering phase, which is initiation. The last one is that obviously destruction phase, which is the execution. Let it perform what is the actual function. So in the same way here in our computer virus also, there are 4 phases of a computer virus, which is dormant phase, propagation phase, triggering phase, and the execution phase. Basically this dormant phase, where the virus will be idle, it will not perform any of its action. Its purpose of the virus will not be done in the dormant phase, because the virus will be idle. It is just like a dead body. There will be some other means where you need to enable that virus. You need to make it you need to give some life to that virus. Until that, it will be just a dead body, I can say it as. So because it is idle piece, which is dormant phase, whereas basically all the viruses will not be included this dormant phase, I can say. I'll try to explain this dormant phase further. The point when I say it as not all the viruses have this stage. This point let me elaborate in the next slide further. So whereas this dormant phase, remember this is the first and foremost phase of any virus, where the virus will not be performing any action. It just idle. It will be just idle. So whereas once after any program is copied or any file which is copied which is already affected, so it will be enabled, so that it go to the next phase, which is propagation phase. What does this propagation phase, however, is it's just like a movement phase. How does the virus can move from the affected file to the unaffected file, or infected file to the to be infected file, a normal file? So that is what the propagation phase. How exactly that movement of the virus will happen, which is what a propagation phase. Once the computer virus propagate by itself to the other program, so you can understand here, either you may be copying the files from a secondary memory disk files. So those files which are already affected with the computer virus, so definitely it is going to affect the directory where you are going to copy. That is what just a propagation. But again, if you ask me whether the affection is started in the sense, no, infection has not started. You are just moving the virus from one location to the other location through the particular file in the propagation phase. Just a movement. However, I said, so once after your virus is entered to your mouth, it has to go to the respective location for its work, its destruction. So that is what the propagation phase. It is you are moving from the affected file to the normal files at a normal directory location. Next comes is triggering phase. See, however, again and again, let me quote the same statement as viruses are the dependent software, a dependent malicious code which needs some initiation from the external source. Until unless that initiation will happen, it will be simply idle. It is not going to perform its action as destruction. That is what the triggering phase. Basically, this triggering is something like initiation, and this function, a triggering phase function, basically with respect to our computer viruses will be included as an event based on the respective time and the respective date. So based on the time and the date, this triggering or initiation will be set. That's what by this particular time the working of the particular virus has to be begin. So that is what the triggering phase, initiation phase. And finally we have the execution phase. So this is what the actual destruction of the computer virus will happen with respect to the execution phase. So that's what I say, the function is actually performed. Whereas that function can be with respect to the replication, or it can be with respect to the damaging. So it may damage the file such a way that, so again, so same way, like it may corrupt the files, it may delete the files, or change the content of the files. So in that way, the destruction may happen with the computer files wherever it is available. Like this, computer virus should also go through these 4 phases. First phase is dormant phase, next is propagation phase. This is what the idle phase or initial phase, idle phase, which doesn't perform any work. Once after it is moved to some other location, which is a propagation phase. So then once the propagation is done, then the triggering is required, which is initiation from the external source is required. As soon as the triggering is done, next is you start destruction, which is the execution phase. Like that, there are the 4 phases of the computer virus: dormant, propagation, trigger, and the execution phase. Next, here is virus structure. See, as a part of this virus structure, already I had explained about the 3 parts of the virus here as an infection mechanism, trigger, and the payload. Now let's see how those are put in your virus program. So coming to this, Remember, however, we say that virus will be transformed or propagated or moved from one location to the other location with the means or with the use of some other computer stored files. So whenever you say it as those computer viruses will move from one location to the other location with the other files or other data files or other normal files in the sense, how it will be in the sense, remember, your computer virus will be pre-pended or post-pended. In the simple way, let me say it as, your computer program will be attached to the other executable programs. So whenever you are trying to transfer any file, your computer virus may be attached to such files, and it will be transferred, it will be propagated, it will be moved wherever you move. Let me assume that there is one file with the ABC in my one directory D directory, a directory D, wherein I am going to move that ABC file to the E directory or F directory. If that ABC file is already affected by the virus, so when at the time of movement, how do I say that it is affected in a sense? Because the virus program is already attached to it. That's what pre-pended or post-pended. Nothing else. It may be attached at the beginning of your executable program or end of the executable program. That's what pre-pended or post-pended. But it will be attached. It will be attached at the beginning or the ending. That's what pre-pended and post-pended. But it will be appended or attached. Once whenever you move the ABC file from the D drive, which is already affected, to the some other drive or some other machine, it can be from my laptop to some other laptop, so from pen drive to somewhere else, like that. Whenever you move, so even the virus will also move with your original program. Basically, these viruses, whichever those will be moving, so based on with respect to that, this statement which is very very important. So most of the viruses carry out their work that is specific to the particular operating system. This is what again very very important point which I want you to note down. It is with respect to the operating system oriented. So what I am going to say with respect to Windows different, Linux different. So whereas with respect to iOS is different. That's what I say. It is specific to a particular operating system. So whenever they are designed or they are, so what I mean to say in the sense, there is some kit, a virus generator kit which is producing the virus program. That program can affect only Windows system in the sense, then that virus will never affect any Linux or it will never affect any iOS systems. That's what I mean to say. The viruses, many of the viruses which are particularly operating system based viruses. So whenever you say that operating system based viruses are, you can also say in that way, it is based on the hardware platform in the sense, once after you take the control of the particular device, then it will load down the performance of that device. That's what you say, weakness of the particular device. That's what performance of this device will be slowed down. So based on this structure itself, here we have very simple code snippet. You can observe right here. This is the simple virus program snippet. It is not complete. So we are given just highlights of the program code snippet. So in this program, if you observe from this program, even before this, try to see this diagram. Later on I will come back to this diagram and I will explain this in detail. But before that, I just want you to see this. What is this in the sense? This is your normal program which is P1, and this is what CV is, the computer virus. CV, or simply say that V which is virus, and CV it is computer virus, nothing else. You don't have to bother much. So what I said in the one of my previous slide, I said that your computer virus will be attached with your normal program either at the beginning or the ending. That's what I said, it is pre-pended or post-pended. You see this diagram where the CV, which is computer virus, which is attached to your normal program at the beginning. So as soon as you execute this program, which program you are executing? You are not executing computer program, you are executing your own program which is P1. As soon as you execute your program which is P1, remember, first program which will be executed is not P1, I repeat again. Even though you try to execute P1, but it will not be executing P1 first, it will be executing the CV. That's what computer virus. That's what I mean to say. So whenever you execute any infected program, or otherwise say that if you try to execute any program which is already infected with the computer virus, what will be executed first? In the sense, it is not your normal program, it is your it is the computer program will be executed first. Once after computer program is executed, it means to say that it already started infecting. So once already it started, it started infecting. So then later your program will be executed. See, this is what I repeat. This is what I said. So this is what your program, normal program P1, and this is what computer virus. So you try to execute this P1, but at the initial, let's say as soon as you attempt for execution of P1 will not be executed, your CV will be executed. What is the CV? It is the computer virus. As soon as the CV got executed, its purpose of destructing the P1 will be begin. Once the destruction of P1 has begun, then later, that's what, after CV is executed, then when you try to, when the control is passed to the P1 for execution, it will not perform its actual task, because that is already damaged, or that is already destructed by your computer virus. That is how, whenever you get any particular file or any software which is already affected by the computer virus, and then you start, or you try to download it, or when you try to install it, or when you try to open it, you feel that it is corrupted, because you may be trying to open this, but it is already infected by the computer virus. That's what I mean to say. When you understand this, for the P1 it is only attached, and you received this P1, but as the P1 is already affected, so you will receive, with the P1 you will also receive this CV, but both are in the same file, but now as soon as you try to execute this P1, first CV will be executed, and its purpose of destructing the P1 will begin. Now P1 will not work. P1 will not be working properly, because it's already destroyed this. It's already destructed this P1. So that is what. Now let me come back to this program snippet. You understand this. As soon as you execute your own program, your own general program, but which will be executed first, in the sense it is this program V. Here V means to say that it is virus program. So virus program will begin execution. Virus program will begin its execution. So once, when I say that virus program will begin execution, in the sense, here V stands for this functional code. This is the functional code of your V. Remember, this is the functional code of your V. And what happens here at the beginning itself, there is a simple example as go to main. So it will go to the respective main function, but you may go to the main function, but remember, for every infecting virus, there will be a separate code like this. I repeat again, there are plenty of viruses. For every virus, there will be a separate code like this. This is the serial number, I can say, or sequence number. So which will be for your this is the sequence number or the serial number of the virus. If any file is affected, I repeat, if any file is affected, in the sense, definitely this number will be prepended to that file. Why I am talking about, in the sense, remember, if P1 is affected, how can you say P1 is affected? In the sense, only if the CV is at the beginning of C1. Here you see P2. Does the P2 is affected? No, because CV is not at the beginning. That's what virus is not the part of your actual file, which is P2. So I can say that P2 is not affected, whereas P1 is affected, because P1 file is begin with the computer virus program. So I say that P1 is affected, whereas I don't say that P2 is affected, because P2 is not begin with the computer program or computer virus code here. So in that means, remember, every computer virus will have its own sequence number or a code number. This is the code number. Here, just as an example, we have taken 1 to 7. So like this, every virus will have its own code number. Now, as soon as you go to the main function, I'll explain this main function later. Before that, you remember, here I have the 3 subroutines. One is subroutine infect, subroutine do damage, and subroutine trigger. See, this is what, these are the three phases which I shown, sorry, not three phases, three parts which I shown in the three parts: infection, trigger, and the payload. If you remember, infection, trigger, and the payload. So here I am calling them as, this is the infection, this is the payload which I am calling it as the damage, and this is the trigger which actually begin the, or which actually initialize the destruction of your computer virus. Now what happens in this subroutine, which is infection in the sense, remember, infection is something like you are spreading the virus to the other files. But before you spread any virus to any other file, remember, if per suppose, if there is a virus, before that virus start attacking the file ABC, if there is a virus V, before that virus start attacking file ABC, first it has to make sure that whether that ABC is already affected by the same virus or not. If the file ABC is already affected by the same virus, then it need not to affect it again, because there is no need of killing the same person for multiple times. The person is already killed by the particular, I would say, if you already killed the person, there is no need of you keep killing the same person for multiple times. Here the same scenario. So if a virus, you need to make sure that before you spread your virus to a new file, so it will make sure that whether that file is already affected by the same virus or not. If it is already affected, it is not going to spread it again. It is not going to copy the virus code into that file again. So it will go to the next file. That is what here you can observe. Get any random executable file and check if the first line of that particular file, if the first line of the particular file is the virus code, our current virus code, it means to say that that file is already affected. This is what I say from that time. The file will be begin with your, if you think that a file is already affected by the virus, that file will definitely begin with that virus code. So here read any file, check if the first line is this virus code, then you can conclude that this file, whatever the file which you just read, it is already affected by that particular virus. Then you don't have to waste the time right there. You just go to the next, you try to find the next file. If it is not prepended with this, that's what, if the first line of the file is not this, it means to say that the current file is not yet infected by our virus, so you need to infect it. How to infect it? You just copy your virus code to the file. That's what a propagation is done. So your virus code will be copied to your file. So this particular process itself, I'm going to explain here. So don't see this topic, I will explain this topic purpose later. So here if you observe, P1 dash is affected one, whereas P2 is not affected. Here itself you can make it out. P1 dash is affected, whereas P2 is not affected. How can you make sure that, how can you make P2 is also affected? Nothing else, just copy this CV to this P2 also. Once CV is copied to the P2 also, then you can say that P2 dash is also affected, because it is also begin with the computer virus code. That's what we do here. Get any file, check whether the first line of the file is the virus code. If it is the first line of the file is virus code, then it means to say that the file is already affected. You don't have to copy again. If the first line of the code is not the virus code, then you need to prepend. That's what, copy your virus code to that particular file. That is what your infection mechanism. Its purpose is only for propagation. And the other way say that you keep copying your virus code to all the files. But destruction is not started. Destruction will actually happen in this payload part, which you call as do damage subroutine. That's what, any destruction, any damage, I can say it as damages like you may be corrupting the files, or you may be deleting the files, or such kind of damages which will occur. But if this has to happen, in the sense, remember, this trigger has to begin. So like that, there are three subroutines. And let's see how these three subroutines are worked in our main method. This is what the main program. This is the main program of your virus. Understand? First thing what happens, it is the infect. First you need to infect it. That's what you call infect executable subroutine. First you call it. Then then you will be calling trigger pulled. That's what you, if you understand this, if trigger pulled then do damage, that's what you call this trigger pulled subroutine. If it is true, if it returns true, then only you perform the damage, then only you perform the damage. If the trigger pulled is not true, then you destruction will not happen, so only you will not call this do damage subroutine. That's what, if the trigger pulled subroutine is true, then you call this do damage subroutine for destruction. That is what a simple snippet of your computer virus. So from this, so remember, for as soon as you execute any affected file, first what will be executed, it is the computer virus. And in the computer virus, what it will happen, first check if the file is already, first you what is supposed to do, you need to infect the other files, you need to infect the other files, you need to make sure that, so whether that file is already affected or not by checking with the first line of the file. If it is not affected, then you store your virus code to that file, and when the affection will happen, only if the trigger is happen. That's what, if trigger pulled is true, then you call the do damage subroutine. So that's what a simple virus structure snippet. Now, so next let's move on to the compression virus. See, why do you deal with this compression virus in the sense, because of this statement, you see this in the, as soon as the infection will happen, you may think, any particular user, let's assume that there is one file, I have one file in my computer, which let me call the file name as ABC. If my file name is ABC and the size of the file is, I assume that size of the file is 50 KB. Assume size of the file is 50 KB. And if per suppose there is one more virus, whereas the size of the virus, let's take up a simple virus, whereas the size of the virus code is 2 KB. I said my size of the my file is 50 KB, whereas size of the virus code is 2 KB. And again and again I am saying again and again that if any process or any program is affected, it means to say that virus code would be attached to it. Now you assume any user can make it out such a way that if any virus code is attached to your program, it means to say that your then total size would be 52 in my example. So my original size of my original file supposed to be 50 KB. Just because virus is attached to it, the size became 52 KB. So in that way, any user could able to find out whether my file is the actual file or something else is attached to it. I'm just talking about only with respect to simple files as KBs. You think about MBs. So as soon as any virus is attached to your original file, the size of the file would be changed. So in my example, I said my original file is P1, the size of the file is supposed to be only 50 KB, but just because it is attached or it is attacked by the virus, so the size of the file became 52 KB. Where does the other 2 KB came from? It is the size of your computer virus. From that changes, whatever it has happened, user can make it out that this is not my original file, because my original file is supposed to be only 50 KB, but now it is 52 KB. So I will not open at all. I will not try to execute this process at all or this program at all. Why should not I execute? Because in a general common sense that I got to know that the size is changed, so there may be some other virus. If I start executing, first thing what happens, the computer virus will execute, which will affect my complete program or my file directory. So in that way, users could able to detect by themselves by using simple common sense. But in order to avoid such kind of detection also, this compression virus came into the picture. What does this compression virus will do in the sense, before any virus is attached to your file, the actual file will be compressed. I repeat, the actual file will be compressed. In my example itself, what is the size of my original file? I said 50 KB. So if you attach 2 KB of virus, it has become 52 KB. From that, any user could able to find out that original size of the file is supposed to be 50, but right now it is 52. So he thought that there may be some virus. So by using this compression virus, what will happen in the sense, before you attach 2 KB of virus, first compress your original file. As such, that for 50 KB file will be compressed to the 48 KB. I am taking an example, understand? So that 50 KB file will be compressed to the 48 KB. Then you attach your original file of 2 KB, original virus of 2 KB. So the resultant will be still as 50 KB only, because your original file is compressed from 50 to the 48 plus 2 KB of virus. So resultant is still it is a 50 KB. So it will be difficult for any user to identify based on the size of the file. So it has become very difficult for any user to find out based on the size of the file. That is what this compression virus. So what has happened? This is the affected file, which is P1 dash. P1 dash is the affected one, whereas P2 is unaffected. It is not affected. So before you affect this P2, what you are doing? You are compressing P2 to the P2 dash. You are compressing P2 to the P2 dash. Then you are copying this CV, which is computer virus, to this P2 dash as well. So where remains the size of the P2 dash is size of the P2 dash including the CV. It is as same as the just P2. That is what this compression virus. So that's what compression virus. I hope you are understanding. Next, let us get into the types of viruses. So basically the viruses are classified into the so many types based on different cadres, that based on different scenarios. Here is one of such a scenario. It is based on the target. Based on the target you do classify. What is this? What do you mean by this target? In the sense, it is what, where you are going to infect, where you are going to affect, where you are going to damage. That's what target of damaging. So as soon as you say that virus is attacked, so you will have to, it is going to damage. That where exactly it is damaging, that's what target. Based on the target, we have the three types, which is boot sector infector, file infector, and the macro virus. You say it as boot sector infector virus, files infector virus, and the macro virus. What is this boot sector infector in the sense? However, the name itself implying its purpose is to damage the complete the disk, root of the disk. So as the root of the disk itself is damaged, or corrupted, as soon as you switch on your device, the first process is the booting process. I hope you know that. So the damaging will occur start from the booting process itself. That's what you call as boot sector infector. So it is going to affect the boot record itself. You are going to affect the boot record itself. So as you affected the boot record itself, so as soon as you switch on your device, the booting process will begin. So that booting process will begin, and it is going to affect the complete computer. A complete computer will be affected, which is the boot sector infector. Second thing is that file infector. So this file infector, which deals with infecting the files of the operating system. So it is something like, once after the system is ready, then you may think about infecting the files of the operating system, or you may be thinking about infecting the other executable files or other files available in the computer. So that is what file sector or a file infector virus. The third one is macro virus. This is somewhat different, which is at the application level. So you understand, this is at the boot level. Once the boot record or boot root record is affected, then a complete system gone. Then file infector, which only deals about the executable files of the operating system, or it can be any other executable files. Whereas third case is the macro virus, which only deals about the application level. It is not going to affect your operating system. It is not going to affect your boot record. It only affects the application, the specific application. So whenever the specific application is affected, it is not going to affect the complete device. A device is working properly, my computer is working properly, only one software is not working properly, because that software is affected by the macro virus. So that's what, based on the target, what you are going to damage. So these are the three cases: boot sector, file infector, and the macro virus. That's one of the type of the classifying the viruses. Second type of the Second type of classifying the viruses, it is based on the concealment strategy. What is this concealment strategy means? So how do you pack your things so that you are going to affect others without knowing? So that's what concealment strategy. So first and foremost thing, it is encrypted virus. As the name itself specifies, it is encrypted virus. Virus will not be virus code is made to be encrypted. Is virus code is made to be encrypted, and that key which is used for that encryption, which will be stored with the virus. In the other way, let me say that you are going to create by using this encrypted virus. What happens in the sense, you will create one key. Who is creating virus is going to create a key. By using that key, you are going to encrypt. By using, you are going to encrypt, and that key will be still stored with the virus only. That is what encrypted virus. Next is stealth virus. So something like you are going to steal something, and another way you say that how do you depend. I'm talking about the virus perspective. How does the virus is going to depend from the, or not depend, it is a defend. How does the virus is going to defend from the antiviruses? Because it is, so in such case it has to hide itself. So when the virus, so how does the virus can hide itself from the antivirus softwares? In such case, this is what one of the type, which is stealth virus, where it is you are not going to hide your just a payload, a complete virus will be hidden. That's what a stealth virus. Next, very important and very problematic virus is the polymorphic virus, because whenever you talk about the polymorphic virus, so till whereas with respect to encrypted virus and the stealth virus, I didn't talk about the what I am saying about replication, which is making duplications, whereas it will happen with respect to the polymorphic virus. This polymorphic virus, which affects everything by replicating by itself, it is going to affect by everything by making duplicate by itself. So even just by using the signature of the virus, it has become very difficult to identify this virus. That's what polymorphic virus. The last one is that metamorphic virus. This metamorphic virus is extension of the polymorphic. If you observe, it is a polymorphic, it is the metamorphic virus. Both can mutate itself, or you can say that it can replicate itself, but only the difference you can find here is at every iteration you need to rewrite the complete virus code, or you are only increasing the, I mean say you are only changing only the respective part of the virus. That is only the difference between metamorphic and the polymorphic. What I am saying, so in case of metamorphic, you are going to it is going to rewrite the complete virus for the replication, because I said polymorphic virus will also be replicated, metamorphic is also be replicated. But whenever with respect to polymorphic, even though it is replicated, you are going to create a copy of it. When you are creating a copy of it, for as a point of antivirus perspective, if you could able to find out one virus, the same solution for finding out the virus itself is enough to find out the other parts of the computer. Whereas it is with respect to metamorphic, as at the time of replication you are going to rewrite the complete code of the virus. As you are going to rewrite completely, so even though same virus for as a multiple copies, but it will be very difficult to identify. It is very difficult for the detection. That is what the metamorphic virus. So how it is going to act, based on that, these are the 4 types of the viruses we are going to deal. So this is what the extension of the macro virus and the email viruses, which I just elaborated whatever I till now. Now let me move on to the next very important topic, which is virus countermeasures. This virus countermeasures, it is nothing else. Till now we said we discussed about how virus is going to spread and how it is going to affect. Now we are going to deal with the solution pattern. How to overcome from that virus? How can you be secure enough from such kind of viruses? How can you defend from the viruses? That's what virus countermeasures. So whenever you say that various countermeasures, Here I'll put as I had put a one statement as which is very important statement as countermeasure is the prevention. You need to prevent such kind of viruses, but however anybody knows that it is very difficult. So preventing the viruses is very difficult. So what I mean to say prevention in the sense you try to make sure that it will not enter. That's what we guys are doing right now, just with respect to the lockdown. You are preventing yourself from the infection. So which is what the prevention. But such kind of prevention is difficult with respect to the computer virus. So what is the possibility or what is the solution part in the sense even after it is infected, then we need to you will have to take up these three steps, which is detection of the viruses in the infected system, identification of the specific infected virus, then removal. What is this detection of viruses in the infected system? Because in my device there may be if I assume that my device is infected, my device is attacked with the particular computer virus in the sense, first I need to detect what are I mean to say I need to detect the viruses which are available in or which are infected in my device. Then I need to identify, once after you detect, then you need to identify which virus is that. Once after you find out which virus is that, then only you can remove that virus. It is some way same as with respect to corona. First you need to identify what virus is that. First you need to detect who is the patient. Once after you detect the patient, then you need to identify what virus is that, because you can't give the same treatment for all the viruses. So based on the different virus, the treatment will be different. Here also first you need to detect the person who is infected, then get to know which virus is that. Based on that kind of virus, you try to apply the solution part, which is you try to give the treatment, which is removal of the computer virus in our case. So detect the infected system, find out which virus is that, then remove that virus. So based on these three strategies itself, as a virus countermeasure, we came to the picture of antivirus, which is doing something which is opposite to the virus software. So virus software which will be performing the destruction purpose. So wherein you try to build one software that has to cut down the functionalities of the virus software, which is antivirus. Yeah, any queries? Guys, anybody? Any queries till now?
No queries.
So as a part of antivirus, before we see the actual types of the antiviruses, so here there are 4 generations. As actually there is a 5th generation as well, but as of your syllabus we are only concentrating on the 4 generations. And these 4 generations, if you think about how does they could able to perform this, because these are what our three factors. You need to detect the infected system, you need to identify with the specific virus, then you need to remove that. With respect to these 3, how they could able to do in the first generation, in the sense they were maintaining the virus signature. The scanner used to maintain the virus signature. Based on the virus signature, they used to find out. So what I mean to say in the sense, so before I mean to say you assume that there is a respective signature of the particular virus, and you know that virus signature. Then later, if you come across any file with the same signature, then you conclude that this file is affected with the signature. This file is affected with the virus. In that way, a simple means. Again, let me repeat. You be a scanner. You maintain the record of the signatures of all the possible viruses. Then whenever you get any file, if that file has the same signature as of the virus, whatever you stored, then you just conclude that that file is affected with the virus. In that way, they used to identify this virus affected files, which is in the first generation. Second generation, they did not depend only on the signature, because whenever they generated the new new virus, signature of the virus was not remaining same. Signature of the virus used to change. Signature of the virus used to modify. In such scenarios, they did not depend only on the signatures. They came across with a set of algorithms or set of rules. Based on that, they try to find out. So among that, one of the very important algorithm which they started or that thought of, which is crypto hash function, a crypto hash algorithm, to find out the modifications whatever happened in the infected file. So that is what one of the that's what happened in the second generation. Yes, Nishant, any doubts?
Sir, no doubts.
Next, in the third generations, so instead of you only bother about whether your data file is modified, because in the first generation, second generation, they only thought that if there is one file, if the file is modified, if the file is corrupted, then they could able to identify that it is affected with the virus. In the third generation, they did not bother about only the file nature. They started thinking about what is the actions done carried out by the viruses. Based on the destruction whatever it is carried by the viruses, based on that itself, they started identifying the other programs or other files, whether they are infected or not. So that is what third generation. And finally, in the fourth generation, so however we used to call it as there are plenty of antivirus softwares came to the picture for scanning, and different antiviruses will carry out their own techniques and their own possible procedures to identify the occurrence of the viruses in the computer device. So like that, they based on the generation first, second, third, and the fourth generation, they used to identify the appearance of or the existence of the virus in the computer device. Next, let's move on to the antivirus techniques. See here, we are going to consider with the three types, not only the two types. Here I just listed out two. So the other third one which I am going to show you with respect to behavioral. So the three, which is one is generic decryption, second is the digital immune system, which is so called DIS, and third one which is based on the behavior based. So first and foremost thing, if you take up the first one, which is generic decryption. So generic decryption is a simple way of finding out the viruses which are available in your computer. So how do you find out in the sense, or how does this generic decryption works in the sense? This generic decryption, it's a kind of, you call it as generic GD scanner. You may also call it as a GD scanner, which is generic decryption scanner for the checking for or detection of viruses. It operates in the three levels or three steps or three pieces. I call it as a CPU emulator, virus signature scanner, and emulation control module. So what is the purpose of this CPU emulator in the sense? Understand, whenever any CPU or any processor which will be trying to process the respective program, so that respective program, here I am calling it as a executable file. That executable file must be, before it will get executes, before you execute your particular program, which I am calling it as a executable file, that must be interpreted. First it has to go through interpreted by this CPU emulator. Once after the CPU emulator interprets each and every instruction present in the executable file, then only that executable file will be actually executed by the processor. So in that way, at the beginning itself, as a generic decryption GD scanner, first by using the CPU emulator as one of the element of the GD scanner, CPU emulator first scans each and every instructions present in the executable file. That's what interpreted. Once after that interpretation is done, then only if you find that file is not affected, if you feel that which is it is CP emulator, if CP emulator gives the note that the file is not affected, then only that file will be executed. If not, the file will not be executed. Then what about the virus signature scanner? This is the same way which I said in the previous generations. As such, this is the one which actually scans the target code. So by knowing very important, by knowing the virus signature. So what it does in the sense, this scanner has a list of viruses with the list of signatures of the possible viruses. So it has a list of viruses and list of signatures of the viruses, and you verify with your particular target file. You verify with the target file. If that target file has a signature, belongs to any one of the signature which it has or it is maintaining, then it concluded that so the target file is affected with the virus. So last one is emulation control. This is what at the time of execution part. So emulation control, it is to control the execution of the target code. Like that, these are the three, either you say it as 3 levels or 3 steps where the GD scanner will perform the detection of virus. So basically this GD scanner they started using for the purpose of polymorphic viruses, because I hope if you remembered, in case of polymorphic viruses, the copy, even though the same virus is or copies of multiple copies of the same virus is done, so all such kind of millions of virus copies has the same program code in it. It is not metamorphic, it is a polymorphic. So if you could able to identify one virus from this, so it is enough. You can conclude that file is affected, so then you can start deleting such kind of files. And obviously it's so fast, because if you just find out one, it is enough. You don't have to find out each piece of the file. So that's what fast. And finally, very importantly, it is not going to affect, or it is not going to damage your computer hardware. It is not going to affect your computer hardware, which is the third very important point from this generic decryption. That's the first one. Second thing is the DIS, which is digital immune system. So let us take up the digital immune system, which is so called as DIS. And why does this DIS came to the picture? In a sense, it is to introspect the viruses, which is with respect to the internet viruses or internet based viruses. How does this internet based viruses came to the picture? In a sense, however, there are plenty of ways where the networking process will be happening. So from that, they could able to categorize, or they could able to identify the 2 major problems with respect to the mail system and mobile system. With respect to the mail system and mobile system, they could able to identify the virus, which is because of which they put it under the internet based virus propagation. Based through the internet, virus is propagating or moving from one location to the other location, or one device to the other device. It is as same as when you send a mail. If that mail has a virus, from your device to the other device, it is injected, which is through the mail. Otherwise, it is mobiles. When you will be transferring the mobile code, or mobile applications from your one device to other device, and that applications are built based on the respective codes. So there is a transition or a movement of the viruses from one mobile to the other mobile as well. It is happens. That is what these are the 2 major problems which they could able to identify with respect to this internet based virus propagation. So through the internet, the viruses are moving from one location to the other location via the mail system, via the mobile programs. So to avoid this, to have a solution for these 2 itself, this DIS, digital immune system antivirus scenario came to the picture, and actually it is developed by the IBM. So now this is the complete scenario of the DIS. So in this complete DIS scenario, so there are plenty of steps as well. Assume that this is the step 1. This is the client mission which is affected or infected by the virus. This is what, so how does see, it's as same as, understand, it is as same as this is my mission. If I feel that my mission is infected by the virus, how do I get to know? It is because of the different changes or the different behavior of the functionalities in my device. Based on that, so I will my device will be considered as a machine which is infected by the virus. From From that I will forward the copy of the program which is not actually, or which is actually corrupted, which is actually damaged. That damaged file, or a copy of that corrupted file, or a copy of that damaged file will be passed, will be transferred to this administrative machine. What does this administrative machine will do? It will not send the it will not send the actual copy of that corrupted copy to the virus analysis machine. What it will do, it will encrypt that copy, and that encrypted copy will be sent to the virus analysis machine. And in the virus analysis machine, what it will happen in the sense, it will take up these three steps, it will perform these three steps. What it will perform in the sense, first it is going to analyze the behavior, first it will analyze the behavior of the behavior of the virus. Based on the behavior of the virus, you find out the type of the virus. You find out the type of the virus. Once you find out the type of the virus, then you find out the structure of that virus. Then you find out the structure of the virus. How do you find out this? In the sense, it is same as you try to understand how did you come to this third step. Because of this first step, in the first step, what has happened? It is from my mission, it is infected mission, I try to execute one corrupted file. I could not able to get the execution of that file, so I thought that file might be attacked by the virus. So only I sent that copy of that file to the administrative machine, and in turn to the virus analysis machine. Here first, in the first step itself, it has to analyze or make a decision. How it will make a decision? In the sense, first it is going to do what? In the sense, it is going to execute that corrupted file itself. Your virus analysis machine will execute the corrupted file itself to check the behavior of that particular file. Based on that, it will identify the particular virus. Once it identifies the virus, then it will very second important step, which it will extract the signature of identified virus. It will extract the signature of identified virus. Once it identified the signature of the virus, then it will make a decision. That's what derive the prescription for that virus. Is it something like, can you come out of, that's what, can you solve that? Is there any mechanism which can remove that virus, or can you update any virus? Or in the other way you say that, so is it something like you will have to remove that file itself? That is what the functionality of the actual antivirus process will happen in this step. So I will say it as, it is a process which is resulting prescription. Resultant prescription will be derived here, which is by whom? It is by the virus analysis machine. Once the prescription is designed, then that prescription will be sent back to the admin system, in turn back to the infected machine. So by using this prescription, you can overcome this virus, whatever it is infected in this machine. But here, this is the complete story from the step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But one thing you should understand that about the 6 and 7 also. This is what very important point you are supposed to understand. What is happening in the 6th and 7th? In the sense, see, if by this 5th step, the infected machine got the prescription, so it can cure itself. But it is your digital immune system has not stopped at the 5th step. It is also extended to the 6th and 7th step also. What it mean to say that? In the sense that prescription is also forwarded to the other missions also. The prescription is forwarded to the other missions also, which are all connected to the administrative mission, and also any other networks which are connected to the same virus analysis mission. So the prescription is not only sent back to the infected mission, it is also sent to all the devices which are connected to that virus analysis mission. The reason is that later You are trying to understand. Some XYZ virus is attacked in this mission. So only XYZ is attacked only in this mission. So this virus analysis mission could able to find out the prescription for that XYZ, and if it sent back to only to this mission, later on after a few days, if the same XYZ virus is attacked these missions also, in the sense again these are going to send the request, and your virus analysis mission has to do the same process again, which is a time consuming and also harmful to these users. So instead of that, if there is a new virus in any one mission, and for that if the virus analysis mission find the solution for that, in the sense that solution which is a prescription will be sent to the all the devices connected to the same virus analysis mission. It is what you called as a antivirus updates. This is what very important. We will be getting, say for example, if I have K7 antivirus in my machine, in the sense for every span of time I will be keep getting the antivirus updates. But we the users, we will avoid such kind of updates. We will never attempt for updating. But actually updates are not sent simply. It is not for time consuming. So updates are sent. Why the updates are sent, in the sense, understand, updates will be having the solution for the new virus, a prescription for the new virus. That new, say for example, this is what my mission, this is what the infected mission. That new virus might not affected my mission yet, but it may come further, because that solution itself is found because that virus is affected some other mission. So for that purpose itself, that antivirus updates is very important. So whenever we get the antivirus updates, we supposed to install them. We supposed to update your antivirus based on the updates we used to get. So that is what the 6th and 7th step. So you not only give the prescription back to the affected mission, you also give the prescription to all the other missions also, thinking that in future if any other missions, if any other devices try to, or if the virus is try to affect any other missions, it is not possible, because all these missions already have the solution for such kind of virus which was affected this mission. That's what the complete story of your DIS, which is digital immune system. The last type which I would like to highlight is behavior blocking software. This behavior blocking software, it is however the name itself specified, is based on the behavior of your computer. If at all if you want to bother about the behavior of the computer, this behavior blocking software, it must be part of your operating system. If it is part of your operating system, then only you can keep checking the behavior of your system, because there is no other superior than the operating system in any mission. So operating system itself will know the performance, overall performance of any device. Now we are talking about the software which is based on the behavior, and that behavior can be much analyzed based on the operating system itself, nothing else. So only this behavior blocking software, which itself will be integrated or a part of your operating system. So and its purpose is to keep checking the behavior of the device. If the behavior of the device varies, then you try to identify, does it because of any virus or not. So that such kind of malicious actions, so something like there may be the blockage, or there is maybe the termination of any particular process or something like that. So such kind of things will be you can identify by using this behavior blocking software. And what are all those such kind of, any queries? So what are all such kind of behaviors, in the sense here there are few behaviors which I just listed out. If per suppose if you there is the attempt to open or view or delete or any files, so whenever attempted for, so behavior has to monitor when you try to open or view or delete or modify the files, even when you try to deal with the disk drives, or very importantly when you deal with the executable files. So like that there are multiple, whenever you deal with the system settings, and whenever you may get any new email or messages, or you may also deal with the setups with the connections, network communications, like this. So based on these, the behavior blocking system, this behavior blocking software has to keep identify keep monitoring the behaviors of the device based on these factors. So if at all if there is a variation, it has to throw the it has to. Hello guys, any queries? Okay, so this is what a simple depiction of the behavior blocking software as such. So I assume that here is the administrator, who is taking care of this server. So this administrator has to keep monitoring the behavior of the behavior of the server, even though the server has a firewall which is just like the entry level checking for the any interventions or any requests from the internet to this server. Those will be managed at this firewall level itself. Even if there is some other request which has entered to the server, which actually changing the behavior of the server, that has to give an alert to the administrator saying that behavior of the server is changing. So you have to take a decision, you have to take action. Based on that particular process, your administrator will take a action such a way that whether to remove that file completely, or he can take a action as whether can you modify that file, or can you have to remove that file completely or not. Such kind of actions will be taken care by the administrator. So that's what a simple depiction of behavior blocking software. So it's purely operates based on the working of the server or performance of the server. So if at all if you want to know about the performance of the server, this behavior blocking software should be a part of your operating system of the server itself. So that's what behavior blocking operation. Yeah guys, so that's the end of session. So we let me go through from the beginning. So I said about what is virus and how it is different from the normal programs. So when exactly it is started infecting, I will say when exactly they started identifying, and how it will move from one program to the other program, or one file to the other file. So then I said about the three very important parts of the virus, which is infection mechanism, trigger, and the payload. Then I said about the four important phases of the virus operation: dormant, propagation, triggering, and execution phase. And coming to the virus structure, it will be prepended or postpended with any other program. So but as soon as you try to execute that program, first will be executed is the virus program. And if you say virus program, in a sense, first it has to infect and it has to damage only if the trigger is pulled. How infection will happen? If the file is already infected, you don't have to infect again. How do you find out whether it is already infected or not? In the sense, if the first line is same as your virus code, then it is already infected. If not, you infect. That's what prepend. So there may be the possibility, based on the size of the file, the people could able to find out the virus attack. So for that they invented this compression virus. That's what the negative people who came up with this compression virus. That's what you say, the way of thwart of detecting. That's what way of avoiding the detecting the virus is to compress the file before you attach the virus code. That's what compression virus. And types of viruses, based on the target, you have the boot sector, file infector, macro virus. And based on the concealment strategy, you have 4 types: encrypted, stealth, polymorphic, and very importantly and very difficult to identify, just metamorphic virus. And countermeasures. So obviously anybody who try to give a countermeasure, which is something like you try to identify, or which you try to make the virus functionality to stop. So that is by the first you need to detect the virus infected system, then you need to identify which virus is infected, then you need to remove. On this itself we came up with the antivirus, and there are 4 generations, and the mode of identifying the viruses is different from generation to the generation, that I already said. Then antivirus techniques. So among that there are 3 types, which is generic decryption, GD scanner, then against DAS, then we have behavior blocking model. So this is the generic decryption. In turn, it has the 3 elements: emulator, signature scanner, and the emulator controller. Then in case of digital immune system, remember GD scanner which they used for polymorphic viruses, whereas DS, which is digital immune system, which they invented for the internet based computer virus propagation related. and there are totally 7 steps in the digital immune system. And finally, behavior blocking software. It is purely works based on the performance or the behavior of any server or any machine, as it has to perform based on, it has to make a decision based on the performance or the behavior. So it will be a part of your operating system itself. So, and it will be keep checking so many observations it will be making out. And this is over the final one. Even though there is a firewall to block it, so even if it enter, so how to monitor that malicious request. So it is based on the performance of the server. Addition will be made by the administrator. This is what the behavior blocking software operation. Yeah guys, any more queries on this? You can post me. Guys, any doubts? Yeah guys, if there are any doubts, you just ask me. Otherwise you can also put a comment here. If there are no more doubts, you can then we can stop the session, today's session. Any doubts? If there are no more doubts, you can leave the session for today. Thank you.